Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Let me start with a very simple question. Why are the smartest CEOs in the world quietly ditching funnels? Not reworking, not optimizing, ditching completely. You will hear them say our GTM plan looks great, but sales isn't cruising. Marketing says we have generated pipeline, but it's not converting. We forecasted 5 million, but we barely hit $1 million. And what do the reports say? MQLs are up, SQLs are up, webinar attendees record high, funnel metrics all green. But revenue dead, flatlined. Here is what nobody wants to say out loud. Your funnel isn't broken. It was never real. And I know how this sounds. You have got dashboards, you have got reports, you have got a chief revenue officer telling you everything is on track. But I'm telling you right now, you are spending millions building pipeline that doesn't convert. And it's not your fault. It's the false confidence of a GTM model that rewards the wrong metrics, measures the wrong motion, and punishes team for not being psychic. And I'm going to tell you a real story and how I learned this the hard way. Let me tell you something most people won't admit. I have wasted millions chasing funnel logic. At one point, I believed it. It's so hard. I convinced entire organization to follow. I had the full funnel reporting. We hit every MQL target. Sales praised the quality at first. Investors clapped for the volume, right? The board signed off on bigger budgets. And then silence. Sales slowed, forecast missed, deals stalled, and marketing blamed sales blamed readiness. And I realized something brutal. We weren't running a GTM motion, we were simulating one. And I'll tell you why CEOs are quietly replacing funnels. The most elite CEOs, I'm talking about the ones driving 50 million, 100 million outcomes, they have already moved on. They have stopped asking how many leads did we get, how many MQLs hit the funnel, how much pipeline did we generate this. Instead, they are asking what signals told us this account is ready to buy. Why did sales ignore the 300k deal? Which activity actually moved the deal forward? You will see the shift, right, from motion to signal, from activity to readiness, and from vanity to velocity. In the last few years, I have worked with IT services firms that scaled from 30 million to 100, 150 million, with product companies that exited successfully, and with teams that build demand engines even the board could not ignore. We stopped worshipping funnels, we built systems CEOs and CMOs could trust. And now I want to show you how. But first, I need to prove to you exactly how the funnel is lying to you. If you still believe in MQLs, SQLs, conversion stages, and linear buyer journeys, brace yourself. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to tear the funnel apart. Okay, let me make a claim, and I want you to tell me I'm wrong. Funnels didn't just mislead your team, they trained you to celebrate fake wins. I'm talking about vanity pipeline that never had a shot, SQLs that were never going to close, forecast based on conversion ratio pulled out of thin air. Let me walk through the three biggest lies that every B2B funnel tells you with real consequences. Lie number one is top of the funnel volume drives bottom line revenue. This is the first and most seductive lie. You have heard it, it's a numbers game. More leads, more deals. Just keep filling the top, something will come. So you crank out white papers, gated ebooks, webinars, vanity SEOs. You spend 100k to drive maybe 1000 leads. The board claps, marketing celebrates, sales nods, but doesn't follow up. Why? Because the 990 of those leads were never going to buy. They were students, job seekers, curiosity clicks, competitor research, or worse, ghost profiles that never existed. And yet your funnel dashboard lit up green. Why? Because it measures quantity, not intent. Volume, not velocity. A funnel rewards the illusion of momentum. But CEOs don't care about volume. They care about momentum that closes. That brings us to line number 2. MQLs and SQLs are stages of readiness. And this is the second trap. We treat MQLs like stepping stone to revenue. Download an ebook, MQL. Open an email, MQL. Attend a webinar, hot lead. Except they are not. I've seen companies that burned $1 million in sales efforts chasing MQLs that had no timeline, no intent, and no buying committee. Worse, sales starts ignoring marketing completely. They're giving us junk. They aren't real buyers. They have just downloaded a checklist, and now you have got misalignment. The whole organization is at war. Marketing blames sales, sales blames lead quality. Everyone is confused because the funnel said these were estimates. But think about it. Right? Would you trust a weather forecast that says it rained once this week, so there is an 80% chance of lightning today? That's what funnels do, right? They predict conversion based on behavior that isn't casual, just correlating, if that. Right? A pricing page visit isn't a signal of readiness, it's a signal of curiosity until proven otherwise. Right? And that brings us to line number 3. Buyers move through a linear journey. This one is the most outdated lie of them all. The classic funnel says awareness, interest, consideration, decision. But let me ask you, have you ever bought anything that way? Today's B2B buyer joins a group, a networking group, listens to a podcast or a YouTube channel, gets a WhatsApp from an ex-colleague, looks up a pricing page, 2 months later comes back after a funding round, gets reactivated because a new VP joined or a CMO joined or a chief revenue officer joined. Right? That's not a journey, that's a cow's loop. The real journey looks like trigger, pause, surface, internal debate, ghosting, buying committee drama, surprise conversion. Funnels were built in the 2011 era when marketing automation was shiny, predictable, and fake. But today, buyers don't follow your funnel, they follow their urgency. And urgency doesn't live in stages. It lives in trigger events, and you can't predict it with linear math. So let me put it bluntly. Your funnel is lying to your board, and it's lying to your team. And worst of all, your funnel is lying to you. But it's not your fault. You were trained to believe this was the system. Now you know it isn't. And in a moment, I will show you what top CEOs are doing instead. Not theory, not buzzword. A new GTM system built on trigger signals and not hope. Let me show you what the top 1% are doing, while everyone else still argues about MQLs and SQL. And I'm not just talking about theory, right? I have run demand gen and marketing for a global IT services company that scaled from 30 million to 140, 150 million. A learning tech firm that dominated the ISV segment before being acquired. And multiple SaaS and tech-driven firms where the funnel was quietly retired and replaced. What replaced it? Not demand gen, not brand, not ABM. Something more fundamental. What did they realize, right? Top CEOs had a realization: you don't win by shouting louder. You win by detecting sooner. The winner isn't the one who spends the most, it is the one who sees buying motion before the competition even knows it exists. Let that sink in for a moment, right? The winner isn't the one who spends the most, it is the one who sees buying motion before the competition even knows it exists. And let me explain, right? Forget tofu, mofu, bofu, forget MQL, SQL logic. Here is the system CEOs are now betting $10 million GTM budgets on. The first one is trigger event is better than personas. They map buying triggers, not personas. A person tells who, a trigger tells you when. A new VP or a CRO or a CMO gets hired, that's a trigger. A pricing page plus a G2 or a ROI tool combo in 7 days, that's a trigger. Series A with security breach, that's a trigger. Merger announcement and a headcount growth, that's a trigger. Job ad for 5 engineers in a finance company, that's a trigger, right? They use signals that scream, we are entering the pain, now is the time, right? Why? Because no one wakes up saying, I want to talk to a sales rep today. But they do wake up thinking this broken reporting is going to kill our quarter. The CEOs who detect that moment win. The second part of the system is action system that is better than content calendars. They don't rely on blog posts and email trips. They build action systems. What's that? That's a way to respond instantly when signal fires. If a VP is hired, a custom pitch hits their inbox within 24 hours. If a G2 review is posted, an SDR sends a comparison deck. If there is a funding news, the CEO gets a category leadership or a point of view within 48 hours. Not 10 touch sequences, not generic cadence, precision strikes, right? Like a SEAL team, right? Not carpet bombing. But it works because it hits when they care, not when you want to sell. The third point is conversion movement is better than nurture trends. Funnels treat buyers like a fish to be warmed up slowly. This system engineers conversion moments where everything aligns. Timing, trigger, trust, tailored narrative, right? So a buyer hits the pricing page, reads a comparison, gets a tailored narrative, lands on a real world proof asset, and gets invited to a CEO roundtable with customers. That's not a nurture. That's a control collision course with value. And that's what closes. And here is the brutal truth. They are stuck in marketing ops debt, quarterly lead goals, fighting with sales over definitions, or worse, hiding behind attribution dashboards. Most marketing leaders never get there. Meanwhile, the top 5% are building real-time GTM systems that feel like cheating. While you are waiting for a content asset that to rank in 3 months, they are already in the deal, shaping the narrative, talking to the board. And this isn't just be better. This is a new operating system. It doesn't matter how great your funnel is. If you're using the wrong system, you're building speed on a broken map. Funnels optimize for efficiency, but signals optimize for timing. And in GTM, timing beats efficiency every single time. So just remember this, right? Funnels try to convert everyone, signals activate only the ready. Funnels rely on generic nurture, signal engineer personalized collision points. Funnels lag, signals detect in market motion now. Right? And if you're still using funnel today, your GTM isn't just underperforming, it is invisible to the buyers who matter most. So let me take you behind the scenes. I have seen it with my own eyes, funnels getting ripped out of companies like outdated organs, right? And being replaced with signal-driven GTM systems that look and feel nothing like what marketing teams are used to. This isn't hypothetical, this is what actually happens. Inside the war rooms of growth stage firms, a $30 million IT services company, and learning tech players deep inside the ISV ecosystem. Let's walk through before and after, right? I walked into a company, let's call it a $30 million IT services firm when I was in Chennai, right? Smart teams, good clients, solid revenue. But their GTM, it was a funnel glued together with hope. They were spending on events, Google ads, content, but nothing converted. Marketing was generating MQLs and SQLs, but sales rep weren't following it. They had HubSpot dashboards that looked healthy, but the pipeline was pure fiction. 3 out of every 4 leads were getting ghosted. Every quarter ended with a pipeline shortfall and a postmortem no one read. When I asked what the definition of a qualified lead was, anyone who downloads a white paper and has a company email. That's not a lead, that's a mistake. And here is what we did instead, right? We threw out the entire funnel logic. No more life cycle stages, no more MQL scoring, no more 60 touch nurture. We mapped out the trigger grid, identifying the top 12 to 15 buyer motions that actually signaled urgency. Hiring a Salesforce architect in BFSI, submitting RFPs in GovTech forums, launching a Latin America after Series B. We stacked those signals into layer 1, 2, 3, high intent to ambient, and built a system to detect them in near real time. Step 3, we rewired the GTM engines. Every signal auto-triggered a play, custom deck, deal math calculator, use case video, SDR enablement pack, sent within 48 hours to 72 hours. Sales didn't have to ask, is this real? They could see it, the timing, the motion, the trigger, all mapped. The result, sales activation rate went from 22 to 71%, meaning 71% of signal qualified leads got follow-up in 48 hours. Win rate jumped from 11 to 30% in 3 months. Right? Sales cycle compressed by 30%. Deals closed in months, not in quarters. Right? For the first time, marketing wasn't being asked for more leads. They were being asked, how do you know they were in market before they told us? This company closed more pipeline in the next 2 quarters than the previous 4 combined. Not because we made better ads, not because we had a prettier content, because we aligned narrative to trigger, signal to action, and timing to trust. Not because we made better ads, not because we had prettier content, because we aligned narratives to trigger, signals to action, and timing to trust. And I could give you more examples, but why does this work? This works because of a core truth. Buyers don't move linearly, they move emotionally, triggered by pain, risk, ambition, and pressure. Right? Funnels don't capture that, signals do. And once you align GTM to a real world trigger motion, everything accelerates. Right? Signals, sales respond faster, content becomes a weapon, and buyers convert sooner, and your GTM moves from theory to inevitability. And this isn't a gimmick, it's a $100 million GTM operating system, and if you're still measuring MQL volume while your competitor is mapping trigger motion, you're not just behind, you are invisible. So why does funnel fail even when you do everything right? Well, let's say you are a good marketer. So you have built the funnel, you have set up scoring, you have got a clear ICP mapped personas, layered nurturing tracks, and killer content. Let me show you how you still lose, right? Funnels rely on lagging indicators, a webinar attendee, a white paper download, a demo request after 6 nurture emails. But here is the truth. By the time your funnel catches a lead, someone else has already had a conversation. Because buyers don't follow your stages, they act on urgency, not nurture sequence. Think about it. You score someone qualified on day 37, meanwhile your competitor picked up the signal on day 4 and had coffee with the decision maker. Your funnel isn't wrong, it's just late. And late equals lost. Here is the single biggest lie the funnel tells you. That buyer behavior is linear, stage driven and trackable. In reality, intent spikes then decays, budgets open then freeze, momentum builds then stalls. Funnel GTM treats urgency like it's stable, but timing decays like radioactive material. Every day you wait, trust erodes, every wrong touch point increases friction. By the time your funnel hits MQL, the window has already slammed shut. So I have seen teams do everything by the book. Beautiful cycle stages, precision, lead scoring, retargeting workflows, handoff SLAs, attribution dashboards. Still the pipeline was soft. Deals were stuck and sales said these leads aren't real. And marketing got blamed. Not because they were bad, but because they were using a framework built for a world that no longer exists. The funnel is like a GTM that doesn't update in real time. You think you are headed to pipeline, but the road has changed and you have headed straight into a wall. Here is what you're missing, right? Funnels assume readiness is static. Signal GTM knows readiness is fluid. Funnel measures behavior. Signal measures context. Funnels optimize for touch points. Signals optimize for timing. Funnel scale quantity. Signal scale conversion. And that's why CEOs are burning the funnel to the ground, because doing more of a broken system faster and prettier doesn't make it work. It just makes the failure look better in reports. So let's call this out, right? If you're hitting your funnel metrics but your sales team isn't closing, you don't have a funnel problem, you have a timing problem. Funnels aren't dead because people are lazy. They are dead because the market has changed and the funnel didn't. And if you're still playing the funnel game, you're fighting with dull weapons in a battlefield that demands precision. Let me show you something that will shift how you think about GTM forever. When I led marketing for a global tech services company, we didn't just scale from 30 to 150 million by getting better at lead gen, right? We rebuilt how the organization sensed buying behavior from C-suite to field sales. And now we replaced funnels with something radically more powerful, the signal web, right? Because pipelines don't die from lack of volume. They die from ignoring the right signal at the right time. Most GTM plans are built like this: awareness, interest, decision, action, right? And they assume all prospects move through this fantasy land in neat stages. But reality is far messier. Buyers go from not looking to board level urgency in 72 hours. A new VP joins, or competitor gets acquired, budget frees up, your entire TAM resets, and your funnel doesn't even notice. Meanwhile, we were doing something different. We stopped tracking form fields. We started tracking movement, not real world triggers that signal shifting intent and timing. This wasn't attribution. This wasn't scoring. This was precision pattern recognition with various tools that you have, right? You have access to enormous amount of resources, whether it's Discoverog or RainKing or Zoom Info or Apollo or Drop Reports. So there are resources available, right? So let me show you what it looks like. Layer 1, right? Organization momentum signals. The kind of signals you will never find in your CRM. A new VP of engineering joins. A Series B just got announced. A major outbound hire. You don't need form for this. You need sensors, right? These tell you the company is entering decision mode. And when we map these across our key accounts, pipeline velocity triples. Layer 2 is trigger events. These are catalytic moments, right? Prospects comparing pricing, using ROI calculators, watching 2 to 3 case studies in a row. These aren't leads. These are live signals of problem prioritization. We once caught a buyer revisiting a benchmark white paper 3 times in 72 hours. No form, no call book, but the contact became a $1 million deal in 12 weeks. The third layer is buying committee movement. The final layer is who is moving and when. Not persona-based messaging, actual motion. A CTO sends the case study to their procurement team. CFO downloads the implementation checklist. The CEO forwards a competitive tear down internally. This is what GTM systems worth 100 million are built on. And no funnel in the world is designed to catch them. So what did we do? We turned these signals into live operating metrics, not just for marketing, but for sales, executive, and even delivery team. Because when you build your GTM around real world buyer motion, you stop predicting, you start participating in the deal before your competitor even know one exists. That's what the best CEOs are doing now. They are looking at attribution dashboards, they're looking at momentum dashboards, they are not chasing funnel stages, they're mapping deal gravity. But every time they activate the signal web, they are not just generating pipeline, they are creating a pipeline monopoly. You want to win your market, you need to see what others miss and act before they can. That's not marketing, that's kind of warfare. So let me ask you something very direct, right? When was the last time you built a conversion engine designed for triggered buyers, not random website visitors. Because here is the brutal truth. No one wants to say out loud. Most of your pipeline isn't lost in awareness, it's lost in readiness. The moment your buyer hits a trigger, they visit a pricing page, download a case study, watch 3 webinars in 2 days. That's the highest leverage moment in your GTM system, and you're probably letting it expire in silence. Let me show you what happens in 90% of B2B companies. Someone engages with your best content, you score it as an MQL, SDA calls in 3 days, 5 days, no answer, you send a generic follow-up, they're already evaluating a competitor. Dead. And you will never know when you lost them, just that the deal never closed. So what elite GTMs do instead? They don't treat content as content. They treat every signal as conversion queue. The difference is normal teams send hi, just checking in, emails after a trigger. Elite teams build conversion bridges, assets designed to escalate urgency the moment a signal fires. And let me show you what that looks like in action, right? So when the signal is a pricing page visit, right, you have to create an interactive cost of delay calculator. Customize urgency based on buyer's segment, right? Shows how waiting for 3 months is $1 million lost in efficiency. Or you can create a CTA like what this means for your organization and how that can lead to a strategy call. Now let me give you another signal, right? Let's say a case study viewed 3 times, right? Now your conversion bridge here is behind the scene video with executive summary. Include unfiltered story from clients C-level. This builds peer level trust and create a CTA like see what made them switch and what they wish they did sooner, right? So this is not a lead magnet, this is precision engineering of the buyer moment. And when you get this right, buyer feels like you are reading their mind. We did this for a healthcare tech client, replaced their ebook folder with a live proof calculator based on a buyer data. Response rate tripled, call booking increased, conversion rate to pipeline was 25%. That's not marketing, that's GTM architecture built like a weapon. So why doesn't everyone do this? Because most teams are busy stuffing the funnel, they build volume machines, but what you need is readiness system, a system that takes a spark of intent and turns into a conversion firestorm. No forms, no nurturing, no bagging, right? Just high signal motion, high conversion moment, pipeline that closes. So the next time your buyer moves, ask yourself, do I have the asset, the conversion bridge that matches this signal with surgical precision? If the answer is no, then it doesn't matter how good your content is, it dies on impact. So does your GTM plan. And I want to talk to you about the missing engine in your GTM system, right? Let me ask you something brutal. What happens after your buyer raises their hand? Most companies celebrate the form fill, they score it, pass it to sales, call it a lead and then sign it. You know why? The SDR reaches out, no reply. Account executive tries once, twice, thrice, maybe 4 times, then blames marketing. Meanwhile, marketing says we gave you 37 leads this month. Nobody wins, pipeline dies, and your GTM plan gets labeled not working. And why most GTM engines stall here? Because there is no activation. Sales doesn't know why this lead matters right now. What signal triggered them? What problem they're actively trying to solve? They treat it like a cold call with a warm wrapper. But your buyer, they have moved on. They needed you 2 days ago. In elite GTM systems, here is what happens within minutes of signal. Account dossier is auto-generated. Buying triggers, tech stack, likely pain points, stage of their journey, relevant content consumed. SDR and account receives a brief. Here is what triggered this lead. Here is the hook. Here is the opening line. They don't send just checking in emails. Here is the real example. A buyer visits migration from X to Y page. Elite sales activation, SDR gets alert within 10 minutes. Dossier even Series B funded 6 months ago, hired VP of sales recently, emails sent with subject, avoid these 3 migration mistakes that cost your peers $1 million. And you attach a proof showing how similar companies accelerated migration by 3 months. So you lead with how you can de-risk this migration, and I'll walk you through how we did it for a peer company. Result, you get a better reply rate because it was an outreach. It was instant delivery at the moment of maximum urgency. And I want to talk to you about how sales enablement is not equal to sales activation. Let's be clear. Sales enablement is training, playbooks, and collateral. Sales activation is live orchestration at signal speed. Your team doesn't need more decks. They need to know what to say to whom at what moment and how to make it land. In the system we build for clients, we even define activation scripts by signal types. As you can see on your screen right now, based on the signal type, pricing page visit, tool comparison, analyst report. Take a screenshot and work on this as you upgrade your GTM system. Every move is engineered, every moment matters. Here is what I have seen across half a dozen companies. Lead to opportunity conversion jumps by 40%, 50%, sales velocity improves, and your win rate doubles. If your sales team is still chasing every lead like it's 2015, you don't have a sales problem, you have a signal blindness problem. You fix that, you'll see something amazing. Your pipeline doesn't just grow, it accelerates. The funnel isn't just broken, it was never real to begin with. It was a convenient fiction, a PowerPoint illusion, a neat model to tell your board that everything was under control. But here is the truth, buyers don't move linearly, they don't care about your tofu, mofu, bofu, they don't wait for your scoring model, they definitely don't give a damn about your 3-month nurturing season. So what are top CEOs doing right now? They're ripping the funnel off the wall and replacing it with the GTM engine built around signals, not stages. Like I spoke to you a little while ago, trigger layer. Instead of leads, we track momentum, job changes, funding rounds, VP level hires, pricing page visits, buying committee expanding, tools added, competitor pages viewed, look at signal grid, organization level signals like funding, growth, new GTM motion, buying committee shift, job changes, tool replacement, behavior signal like page visits, content consumption. The signal grid tells us 2 things. Readiness, are they actively evaluating? Are they likely to act in the next 30 to 45 days? And then do the action mapping. This is the game changer. Each signal doesn't just sit in your CRM, it gets a mapped action. Competitor tool added to a stack, email with a case study of switching from that exact tool. Right? No lead score, no nurture drip, just relevance. Right? And then you create conversion bridge assets, calculators that show cost of action, ROI decks tied to industry benchmark, 1-pagers triggered by exact problem they are researching. And then you activate it with the sales activation layer like you saw in the previous section. This is not the theory, it's a system. We have built this in IT services company that have scaled to $150, $250 million company, tech firms that got acquired, SaaS companies that had 0 brand but became default choice in 12 months. So you can do this without buying list, without brand ads, without cold spam. Right? Build your GTM around human momentum, not corporate process. Don't just copy the funnel again, build something real, something rooted in signal intelligence driven by urgency, activated with assets that convert and trusted by sales, not tolerated by them. Because when you do, your GTM stops being a cost center and becomes a revenue supercharger. This is the $100 million system CEOs are betting on. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at your GTM plan and genuinely believed it would change the trajectory of your business? I'm not talking about minor lift. I'm talking about category defining momentum. Deal velocity like you have never seen. Boardroom confidence you can feel. If your answer isn't right now, then maybe, just maybe it's time to burn the funnel. Because while you are still debating lead scoring models and attribution rules, the top 5% of CEOs are doing something very different. They've seen what happens when you ditch the playbook. They've rebuilt their GTM around one thing: real buying signals. And they're not looking back. And let me address this directly. And know this isn't for everyone. If you're still obsessed with funnel stages, if you still think MQLs are signal, if you want to keep tweaking your HubSpot workflows instead of fixing the damn system, this isn't for you. But if you are a CEO who knows deep down your GTM is rotting from the inside, then here is what I want you to do. Comment with the one brutal truth about your GTM motion, something you have been afraid of. Because people like you, the ones who are rewriting the playbook, you don't need to be told to act. Funnels were never the answer. They were just a comfortable lie that made everyone feel productive. The future belongs to companies that embrace signal-driven GTM. And the CEOs who act first, they won't just survive the shift, they'll dominate the next decade. Until next time, cheers.